Welcome, everyone. Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting parents whose children have passed. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and a greater peace of mind. HPH goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. HPH affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at this meeting is voluntary. We hope the participants will learn from and share with each other. Discussions here are confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Zoom meetings run by leadership are not confidential. These meetings typically feature guest presenters and are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members worldwide can watch and benefit. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, and so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And as I say, I'm so thrilled to have Dr. Laura Berman with us. And I just wanted to remind everyone, if you'd like to, put in the chat box who you are, where you're from, and if you're an affiliate leader, caring listener, or a board member, so that we can recognize you. And this bio is very short. I just want to remind everyone that Dr. Laura Berman is also a Shining Light mom, and so she knows exactly what we're going through, and she's going to be giving us some tools this evening to move forward and heal, and tell us a little bit about what's helped her on her own journey. Shining Light mom, Dr. Laura Berman, is a world-renowned sex, love, and relationship therapist who has spent the past 30 years devoting her career to helping others learn to love and be loved better from a mind, body, and spiritual perspective. She attended our 2024 Helping Parents Heal conference with Anita and Danny Moorjani, as well as Tina Cameron. Since the passing of her beloved son, Sammy, at the age of 16, Dr. Berman has expanded her work to focus on healing and learning how to continue a beautiful relationship with our loved ones on the other side. She is a columnist for USA Today, a New York Times best-selling author of 9 books, and is an award-winning syndicated radio host. She currently hosts the popular love advice podcast, The Language of Love, in addition to her regular appearances in daytime and news media. Dr. Berman is well known as the sex, love, and relationship expert on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and has starred in 4 television series, including 2 on the OWN network and 1 on Showtime. And I'm going to go ahead and put all of her information in the chat box, but without further ado, please join me and Lisa in welcoming Laura Berman, LCSW, PhD, to this evening. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be with you. So honored to be here and to be with all of you. You know, as you heard, I share the same, I'm a member of this same club that no one should ever have to join, but here we are. And I'm going to share a lot of my personal story, some things that I really, until recently, haven't just starting to talk about publicly, as I've integrated a lot of it. So I'm really excited to share some of that with you. But, you know, as you heard, I spent most of my career helping people learn to love and be loved better. I was no stranger to loss. Before I lost my son, I had both. I recently interviewed a beautiful death doula named Alua Arthur on my podcast, and she told me, technically, I am sort of a death doula because of how many people I have been with as they transitioned. to the other side, and the way in which I just unwittingly ended up douling them through the process, because I grew up in a very left brain, sciencey family, and really came to my spiritual beliefs after first losing my mother about 11 years ago. And that really kind of started to open the channels. That was the worst, most impossible loss I could imagine at the time. I was in my early 40s. And I was also just launching a television show on the Oprah Winfrey Network, or 5-day-a-week radio show. I didn't have time to grieve. I didn't want to grieve. And so I didn't. And within a year of my mother dying, I developed breast cancer with none of the risk factors, none of the genetic predispositions, and had to completely stop my life, have a mastectomy, chemo, the works. And, you know, as with many of these things that I call AFGEs, another freaking growth experience, these things that break us open and apart, this really required that I stop my life, and my family started falling apart. Not my husband, he was an amazing concierge, but my kids, all three of them, in their own ways, were really struggling, because their grandmother had just died. Now I was, you know, I couldn't, it wasn't like I could or wanted to hide it. I was bald and going through chemo. And so out of desperation, really at first to support them, when, you know, my oldest became suicidal, my youngest started refusing going to school. He was in 3rd grade, and Sammy, the one that I eventually lost, was having panic attacks. And so you know, none of my usual stuff as a therapist. Mama was working, the doctors, the therapists, the educational specialists, even looked at medication. None of it was working. So, you know, what is the saying? Necessity is the mother of invention. I went to a medium for the first time since college. You know, I'd gone to one in college. And I went to this woman, I was living in Chicago at the time, named Therese Rowley, who's a wonderful medium psychic. And I was going specifically, you know, triage about the oldest son, who was suicidal at the time, because that was the biggest issue. And she immediately tapped in and said, oh, he's clairsentient, which I had never heard about. I didn't know about this back then. This was 12 years ago or so. And she said, he's clairsentient, meaning he can feel what other people are feeling, or the equivalent of what we know of as an empath today. And she said, but the difference is, and this is true for many children, especially the rainbow star children, the indigo children, they are clairsentient. They feel what other people are feeling, but they don't see the difference between what they're feeling and what other people are feeling. So he was feeling what everyone else was feeling, but thinking he was feeling that. So she said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go home. And she goes, you have to be really careful of how you are around him. And I was like, well, I never let him see that I'm stressed. I like calm myself, you know, I put on a happy face. I'm calm, I'm nice. She's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your body's energy. And she showed me how to, what I now call ground in my energy and open my heart. And my hope is that I'll be able to take you guys through some of these processes, because they're very powerful. So I'm going to try to do a few exercises with you during our time together. So I go home to my suicidal kid and I say, listen, and he didn't believe in any of this. He was all sciencey, and he was in 9th grade. So I was an idiot as far as he was concerned, like most 9th graders think of their parents. And so I said, look, this is what this woman told me. And I told him, she thinks you feel what other people feel. And he said, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I think what you're saying is true. And I said, okay, well, she said to give you this special hug, which he now still to this day, now 27, calls the grounding hug. And he still asks me for it. But basically, where you ground your energy and then you pull love in through the top of your head and share it through your heart into him and let it ground him. And he immediately melted. And I was shocked. And that was the beginning of what I call my reawakening, because I was really awake as a kid, but in my sciencey family where they all told me I was making it up and it wasn't real, I just shut that down. So it started opening the channels. And then the scientist in me needed to really understand how it all worked. So that is what led to Quantum Love, the book that I eventually wrote, which is about how to harness. It basically is applying quantum physics to your relationship, but it's the science underneath how energy works. And this is going to be important for the rest of the conversation. One of the key understandings from quantum physics, and that impacts so many aspects of our lives, is that we are all pure atomic energy. We all seem separate from each other, separate from the computer screens we're looking at, separate from the chairs we're sitting on. But on a quantum level, if we were to look at it all through an atomic microscope, at the smallest atomic level, we are pure vibrating energy. There is no separation between any of us. We are just vibrating at different frequencies. Now, one of the things quantum love I teach is how to change your energetic frequency to match your intention and to have other people match yours. So like right now, you're all in training to me, most likely, because I came in here holding an energetic frequency very consciously, which I now do naturally, right? But one of the keys is that the energy of which we are made cannot be created or destroyed. The energy of which everything is made cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change form, okay? Now that becomes very important as things start to happen with my middle son. So with Sammy, who was 16, it was the pandemic. We're living in LA where we still live, and sheltering at home because, it was the lockdown in LA. And none of my kids, my oldest was living in Davis, but so he was 24, 25. And then I had a 16 and a 15-year-old living at home. And I just said to my girlfriend, one of the blessings of the pandemic is that I don't have to worry about my teenage kids. I don't have to worry about where they are or what they're getting into or whether they're going to a party or doing drugs or drinking. Like, they're stuck at home with me. It was like a relief. Well, little did I know that I had no idea. My kids weren't able to socialize. Sammy wasn't able to play football, wasn't able to go to school. So I said to them, look, as long as you go to school online, do your work, are getting good grades, I'm not going to limit your social media use, because that was their only way to interact. And what I had no idea about at the time, this was in 2021, was that the algorithms on social media match predators and drug dealers and pedophiles to our kids. So what ended up happening, unbeknownst to me, I thought this was dumb of me, but remember, this was 2020. And in many ways, Sammy was it turned into a canary in the coal mine. Now this is common knowledge, but at the time it was not. And I was a pretty educated parent, but I really thought you needed to know a drug dealer or know someone who knew a drug dealer or find a drug dealer if you wanted drugs. What I didn't know is that a drug dealer had gotten in touch with him through Snapchat and had offered to deliver drugs to the house as easily as a pizza, and even gave him a colorful menu with like one Percocet, $2, one, Xanax, like a whole list of things. And I didn't know this at the time, but he was curious and went ahead and ordered it. And it was fentanyl. It was laced with fentanyl, which 65% of the street drugs are now laced with. It only takes a few grains of sand of fentanyl to kill you. So on Super Bowl, he had gotten the drugs from a drug dealer. I didn't know this. He had them delivered to the house while we were sleeping. He went out back in the alley and picked them up. And on Super Bowl Sunday, I went into his room because that morning he had asked me to come and talk to him because he wanted to apply to NYU Business School. He wanted to major in international business, and he was starting to work on his applications because he was getting ready to go into his junior year. And he said, I want to do an internship this summer. Will you help me make a resume? So I was going into his room a few hours later to help him make the resume when my youngest was running ahead of me into his room, and we found him dead on the floor, and he died of fentanyl poisoning. And what was really devastating about it, besides, on multiple levels, was that when I found out while the police were still in my house, what had happened, that he had ordered drugs, and the police said it must have been fentanyl because he was in what is horrifically called the fentanyl death pose, where you're on your back because they fall backwards. His friend sent me a screenshot that Sammy had sent him of the dealer's menu, and it had the guy's handle on it, his Snapchat handle. And so I went running to the police. Here's the menu. You can catch the guy. And they said, we're really sorry. The Snapchat won't even take our calls. They won't give us any information. And we don't even bother calling them anymore because they won't help. And that was when I went crazy. And I'm still not sure why. I think it was my way of coping with the impossible to cope with. But I became obsessed with the fact that other children were going to die. I think it was a way to just not have to focus on the fact that my child was also dead. And I started freaking out. Well, what do you mean? We can't stop this guy? He's going to kill, I said, okay, let me order drugs right now from him and let him come to the house. And they said, no, we can't do that. So I was going crazy. And my husband said, why don't you just post to your little social media followings? You clearly need to let people know, and you're scared. So let them know. I don't remember finding the picture. I don't remember writing the post. I remember writing it, but I don't remember thinking. I was just like writing it. And I said, this is what happened to my son. Watch your kids. They're getting these drugs on Snapchat. They're laced with fentanyl. My kid just died. Like, watch out is kind of my message. And it went viral. I didn't know it was going to go viral. I had no intention for it going viral, but it went viral. And the next thing I knew, I was being called by every news outlet and every talk show, mostly because of the Oprah connections and the platform I had had, and this famous therapist kid had died. And I started doing these shows with no hair and makeup, sobbing and snotting through them, because all I could think about is if one kid gets saved, that's all I could focus on. And I could feel myself doing what I normally do and what I did with my mother, which is go right to turning pain into purpose. I was going to not let any kid die. That's how I was going to deal with this. It's not let any other kid die. And I was just going. But I was having trouble breathing. I was having trouble functioning. I didn't know where I was. I mean, we've all been there, right? So I go to the beach because that's my healing place. And this is the story that I haven't really shared, or just starting to share. I go to the beach to just try to breathe because I can breathe better there. And it's empty because nobody's at the beach during the pandemic. And I had already gotten to a place spiritually where I know things, I see movies. I often can see in my clients kind of the trajectory, like I call it the point of fracture. If they come to me with an issue in their relationship, I like almost immediately can see a scene from their childhood where the self-love, self-worth, where the pattern started, like things like that were just status quo for me. But I had never heard anything. So I'm sitting on the beach and I hear a very loud male booming voice ask me a question. And it asked, do you want to live or die? And I immediately knew what that question meant because of what had happened when I didn't grieve my mother. I knew when I got that breast cancer diagnosis. Now, this is not to say that anyone who doesn't grieve properly is going to get cancer. I'm not saying that. But for me and my system, we know that we all have cancer cells. We know that cancer develops through inflammation. And we know that many things cause inflammation, toxins in the environment, in the food we eat, our predisposition, our genetics, and our emotional inflammation can play a huge role in our health. And I did not deal. So I knew that was one of the biggest lessons out of my breast cancer journey, that it was no coincidence that within a year of my mother dying of breast cancer, I had breast cancer in the same breast she did. So I knew what that question meant. Not that I was going to kill myself, but that I could let myself die. And I also knew that I could stop living. And we all know that choice, right? We all have to make that choice, not just once, many, many times. Do you want to live or die? Do you want to choose life or stop living? Right. And once again, I'm not talking about suicide per se, although God forbid that's, sometimes occurs to people when they're in deep pain. I'm just talking about the natural trajectory of facing this kind of pain that every single person here has faced and is facing. So I was very clear on the question, on the answer. And I said, yes, I want to live. Yeah, I want to live. And then I immediately it was like, it's one of those things that you've heard many at the Helping Parents Heal conference. You've heard people's near-death experiences and their stories. These things are hard to put into words, but the best way I can articulate it is I was flooded visually and physically with a life review that was through the lens of what an insane miracle it is that I get to have this life. I saw the sperm and the egg come together and start dividing. I saw me developing inside my mother. I saw me survive my birth. I saw me survive my crazy, toxic childhood. I saw all the things happen. And while I was seeing it, I was feeling and sensing and seeing like the insane 1 in a billion miracle it is that I or any one of us get this gift of life, to get to be here. And as painful as it was right now, I was aware and felt with every sense the insane gift that life is. And so I said again, yes, I get it. I want to live. And then the voice said, okay, well, if you want to live, you need to leave your family and go away for at least a week and go all the way into your pain, or you will die. I was like, F you. That was the last thing that I wanted to do. I was already in more pain than I could ever imagine. Going all the way into it seemed impossible, much less going home to my husband and being like, sorry, dude, we have our youngest at home, our son just died, peace out, I'm leaving town. I couldn't imagine doing that. But when a voice tells you that you're going to die if you don't do that, I at least listened. And so I went home to my sweet husband and told him I need to leave for a week or I'm going to die. And he just kind of looked at me and said, okay, like you have to do what you need to do. So right after, when all the news had hit over Sammy, a place called 1440 Multiversity in the Redwoods near Santa Cruz had reached out to me. They heard what happened. I had done several events there, retreats through the years. And so they said, we're closed for COVID. We're so sorry for what happened. We're closed for COVID. If you and your family want to come cocoon here, we'll open a faculty house for you, even though the campus is closed. And I didn't really pay attention to it at the time. But when I made this decision, I was like, oh, 1440. So I reached out to them and they said, yes, come. And I reached out to my best friend, who Elizabeth already mentioned, Tina Cameron, who is masterful at holding the biggest, heaviest emotional stuff. She's one of those people that can be around, and we all know not everybody can be around this kind of pain. So she came and picked me up and we drove to the Redwoods. I don't even remember packing or any, I just brought my weighted blanket and whatever sweats I could find. And out of the woodwork, all kinds of healer friends that I had interviewed for my work, that I had worked with myself through these years of healing and quantum love and everything else, and interviewed on my shows and on my radio shows, they all start coming out of the woodwork. How can we support you? So Tina takes on the role of my grief concierge and starts scheduling them all. And all of a sudden, I'm in the Redwoods at 1440, walk into this house, this faculty house. They had filled it with the foods that I liked. They had framed a picture of me and Sammy by the bed. They just like created this cocoon. It was just like angels. Then all of these healers came in. By the end, during the week, I was doing grief yoga. I was doing therapy. I was doing somatic experiencing. I was forest bathing. I was sitting on the mother tree, wailing into her for hours. The mother tree was on the campus. I was doing body work. A lot of it was just remote on Zoom. A few of my healer friends were nearby and even came to campus to work with me there. And I'll put a link when you guys are asking the questions. I'll put a link to the YouTube video. I made a little video diary just for my friends and family, and I ended up making it into a video because it was, by the end of that week, I certainly was not healed, but I was so transformed and I could see the light. I couldn't reach it. It was still far ass away, but I could see the light at the end of the tunnel and I could see how to get there. And I went back to the mother tree with Tina on the last day. And I said, I don't know that I could afford this. What I just did here for this week, if I were paying for it, it all just, I think through Sammy, came to me. But I'm going to bring a group of grieving mamas back here and take them through this, what I just went through, because I can't be the only one this happens to. Now it took us 3 years, but it's now been 3.5 years since Sammy died. So this past April, we did our first ever Grieving Mama retreat at 1440. And between 1440 and Tina and I, we raised enough money to give partial or full scholarships to 50 of the 60 or 55 of the 66 mamas who came. And I wasn't sure if it, I knew what worked for me. And by this point, I've been doing it for 3 years, and I'm going to share with you these 6 pillars of healing in a moment. But I didn't know if it was going to translate to these other mamas. And each and every one of them was profound, experienced the same thing, not healed. Healing is a life journey, but can see the path, can master the tools, understand what works, can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and had lightened their load. And so that has become something that I'm so unbelievably passionate about. And a huge, huge part of it for me, and we'll talk about these other pillars, but because of this beautiful group, I can dive in deep to the spiritual piece. The spiritual connection for me has been one of the hugest, most profound parts of my healing. And I'm so grateful because, I was saying to Elizabeth and Lisa before we got on that, when you live long enough, and I'm now about to turn 56, you can start to see the trajectory of your life. You can start to see those things and those doors that closed were actually closing so another door could open. Those AFGEs and other freaking growth experiences that you experienced actually broke you open towards something else. And when Sammy and Jackson were little and my mother had just died, it was the first person that they had ever loved and known who had died. They were asking me what happens when you die. And so I told them what I understood and believed. I said, and I framed it that way because I said, none of us know, until we die. But what I believe is that we are all ancient and eternal souls. And before we came here, we were all souls. And we got together and made a plan. And we made a plan that I was going to be the mama and you were going to be the kids. And maybe there were some things we needed to learn. And so we were going to have we choose our parents based on what we may need to learn. I was thinking about my own parents and what I had been through. And afterwards, Jackson, my youngest, who was in 3rd grade, said, okay, so when you die, will you wait for me so that you can come back and be my mama again, which I thought was so sweet. And, I didn't go into how there is no time or any of that. And then Sammy said, well, I must have not had much to learn because I chose amazing parents like you. And I hold on to that so unbelievably tightly. But I also really believe that this was all part of the plan. And I'm actually right now working on a grief book called Crying Out Loud, because I've been crying out loud so that other people feel free to do that. And while I was at Helping Parents Heal, I'm trying to remember whose talk it was. It was the soul phone guy. I'm sorry, I'm horrible with names, but you know who I'm talking about.
The soul phone is Dr. Mark Pitstick that you must have been.
Pitstick, right. Okay. So he was taking us through some sort of visualization. And Sammy immediately comes in like he loves it. He just like comes right in when I open the door. And we were having this conversation, and I said to him, you know, I never, like, I don't know what to ask you right now, because I feel like this is such, you know, this is an amazing opportunity right now. You're coming in so clear. I'm seeing where you're hanging out. I'm seeing where you live. Like, I don't know what to ask you. He's like, you don't need to worry about it. Like, I'm right here. You can ask me anything, anytime. And then I said, well, are you supposed to help me write this grief book? And he looked at me kind of like, Mom. He goes, Mom, I was always supposed to help you write this grief book. And I understood what he meant. And he has been, I have learned so much. I learned a lot after my mom died, you know, learning how to connect with her. And then after my mom, I have been by the bedsides doulaing, as I was saying to you earlier, both my grandmothers, both my parents, and my spirit mother, all within 10 years, I would say, of each other. So I'm no stranger to death. I'm no stranger to grief. I've worked with it for decades as part of my clinical practice. But as you can imagine, you know, the personal side of it adds such a profound layer, not only to my personal experience, but to the work that I'm doing in the world. And it's become something that is a huge part of my work, is not only helping people heal from what seems like insurmountable and impossible loss, because, like, you know, this is the PhD of loss, the double PhD, MD, whatever D of loss, losing a child. But the spiritual connectedness I've been able to create, and I do believe that that is part of, not that we wouldn't give back every single gift if we could have our children back again. That is one of the most profound gifts, is that it opens by necessity and maybe by design. I think it opens the spiritual channels and the potential, because we so much want it, you know. And for me, wanting to stay connected to him so badly pushed me to learn more, to practice more, to open my heart and mind more. And I learned so much. Like, I already knew that a lot of what I write about in Quantum Love is the different energetic frequencies our bodies hold. We're almost like, if you think about an old-fashioned radio dial, there's the station and then there's the volume, right? And so the higher our energetic frequency, what I'd always taught and focused on, the aspect I'd always focused on, is the higher anything from like curiosity to openness to hope, optimism, love, you know, anything really from curiosity up is considered a high frequency that's going to help you manifest. That's going to, when people naturally match your frequency, it's going to bring beautiful people into your life. It brings all of these gifts. What I didn't realize until after Sammy was that if you can raise your frequency, see, when we leave our human bodies, these bodies are very dense. We are taking in 40 billion bits of information into our brains every millisecond, but only consciously processing 2,000 of them because of the limitations of our five senses. It's sort of like what Anita Moorjani speaks about in her book, Dying to Be Me, that living in these bodies with these five senses is like living in a pitch black warehouse where all you can see is where you shine the flashlight of your five senses. And when we aren't in these bodies anymore, the lights turn on in the warehouse, and you can see the whole amazing amusement park that is there beyond our five senses. And so what I have found is when I do something really healing, I have a big emotional release, or I do some ecstatic dancing, or I have a big cry, or I move myself naturally into a higher frequency, and there are ways to do that I teach. That is when he can reach me, because when we're no longer in our bodies, we are vibrating at such a high frequency that no human body, even the most Zen master on a mountaintop could reach. So what's so ironic about it is that when we need them most, when we are in the deepest bowels of despair, that is when it's hardest for them to reach us. So what I've found is if I can raise my own frequency, and I don't mean inauthentically, like everything's great, but I mean really energetically raise my frequency, that is when I can most connect to him. I also, and you learned, I'm sure, a lot through all of the talks and the conference and everything else, the importance of signs. They are giving us constant signs. And when we don't, the tendency is to be like, oh, that was just a butterfly. That wasn't you, that was just a coincidence. It's not like they, then they say, okay, she didn't get the message. I'll try to find another sign. They don't keep giving us, they kind of give up on that and maybe they'll try something else. So the more you recognize the signs, the more you celebrate the signs, the more signs you'll give them, they'll give you. So one of my favorite games to play with him is to put on like a random Spotify mix that I don't know any of the songs that are going to play. And I say in the beginning of one song, I'll say, okay, so I like to give him time. And I say, okay, Sammy, you pick the next song. And invariably, like every single time, it's the next, so this last time I did it just recently, I think I posted about it on Instagram and because the song was still playing and I turned on the camera. I said, okay, Sammy, you play the next song. And the next song comes on and it's, I'll be there. That the Jackson 5 song, whenever you need me, I'll be there. And the other, like a month ago, I was with Tina and another girlfriend and I was like, we were in the car and I said, let's try it. And I told him to put on the next song. And this random song I'd never heard of before came up and it was like about love and obsession. I was like, what the hell? And then I started to get all fussy. Well, it's not working. And I even started to doubt it. And my girlfriend said, no, just wait, listen, let's see. And then I'm like, well, let me just see what song it is, like what this song is called. I've never heard it before. And it's called I Am With You. And that's the chorus of the song, I Am With You. So he's constantly giving signs. Automatic writing is a beautiful way where you just kind of, I love to do it by just grounding myself, which we'll do in a minute. I'll take you through a grounding, heart-opening exercise before we get to questions. But I'll ground myself, just ground the energy of my body, kind of move into what I call home frequency. And then this is just like a technique I've learned to move out of my thinking. I call it move out of your brain so your mind can work. I imagine just moving my consciousness from my left brain to my right brain, which is the left brain is more of the thinking brain. The right brain is how I feel we access these things more. So I'll imagine just moving my whole consciousness, my whole awareness over to the right. And I just start asking him questions and I don't think about what we have whole conversations with automatic writing. Pendulum dowsing, same thing. You can ask yes and no questions. You can just make up your own rules. You don't have to be a pendulum expert. You can say, this way is yes, this way is no, and see. One of the things that I love to do, and I have found that other people can do this too, it's not just me and Sammy, is a technique that the medium Susan Gra taught me. We were in the woods, right? She came with me. She was one of the, because on this retreat that I did at 1440, all of the healers who have helped me volunteered their time and came to the retreat to work with the mamas. And she was one of them. And we were there the night before at the mother tree. And I was saying, I've been so busy trying to get this whole conference ready. I haven't been connecting with Sammy, which is kind of ironic. And she said, well, he's right here. And, and I was like, I wish I could feel him. And she's like, well, here, play this game with him. And what she had me do is just stand there, ground, and say, okay, Sammy, push me. And I swear to you, I still do it to this day. Like I would stand there like so hard and firm, and I am not going to be pushed over, and boop, push back, boop, push back. So I call that push play. And then lucid dreaming. is another beautiful way, you know, to say before you go to sleep. I sometimes light a little candle and I write down, what would you have me know, or come and visit me in my dreams. He doesn't come every time. It's not an on-demand performance per se, but we've all had, you know, those are, when you dream about your loved one, those are visitations. And some dreams are lucid, where it's like you're awake, but you're sleeping. And I love those the most, because I can feel him and smell him, and I'm just like squeeze his little fat man hands that I used to love. I'll just like squeeze all over them and kiss all over him in my dream, but it feels unbelievably real, and I believe that it is. I'll just mention, you know, that was like what I call the spiritual piece, which is where I've really focused for this, is one of what I kind of consider 6 key pillars of healing. The other is creative expression. It's so important to, you know, find some way, whether it's writing, somatic painting. I would like paint and put it all over my body and get out anger. Somatic physical work, embodiment work. So creative expression is one, embodiment is another, somatic experiencing. I can't speak highly enough. That has saved my life, and that will raise your frequency as well. There's so many techniques for moving emotion. And for the first year after he died, I would every single day go into my little back room, ground myself, do a body scan, notice where there was density or pain, just sit with it and put all of my conscious awareness, and then do the same thing, move my consciousness over to the right and tell my body, do whatever you want to do. I'd be rocking on the floor. I'd be crying. I'd be screaming into pillows, beating the shit out of pillows. Like whatever wanted to move, I would just move it. And getting that out not only maintains our health, it raises our frequency. So there's beautiful resources out there. I'm sure you guys at Helping Parents Heal have a lot of them. But traumahealing.org is a great resource. Maybe you can put that in the chat for somatic healers around the country. Spending time in nature, because remember about the energy, nature is always at a high frequency. It does not match us. That's why being in nature is so healing. We match nature when we're there. So if you can just ground on a little piece of grass or earth in your bare feet, if you can go and hug a tree, even better if you can spend some time there. Community is another key pillar, which you all know about, because we have to lean on each other. The rest of the world very often needs us to be okay, or they're uncomfortable with our pain, and they will put pressure on us, or we're afraid to be in a good mood. I hear this all the time. I'm afraid to be happy because then everyone's going to think I'm over it and expect me to be happy all the time. I'm just having a good day or a good hour. So it helps so much to be with other people with whom words aren't necessary to understand your pain. To me, that's one of the most gorgeous things about this group, and what's been created here. So we have embodiment, we have nature, we have spirit connection, we have community, we have creative expression, and then the cognitive piece, right? That's where I find most grief counseling focuses on, that one pillar. And that's important, right? That's the guilt, that's the shame, that's the regret, that's the 5 stages of grief that aren't stages, they're squiggly backs, they're not a line. But that's important, but that's one of the 6 pillars. So for the sake of time, should we do a little grounding, heart
Sure.
opening?
I think grounding would be wonderful. And I just want to first say that there are so many wonderful things that people are writing in the chat box. And I also want to just let everyone know, because in Helping Parents Heal, we have a different kind of language. We never say that our children died, that any of our loved ones have died. They have transitioned or passed. So there are a lot of people that are concerned about it, but there's something that Sherry said up here, and I completely agree with what she said, and that is that at times individuals use the word death in regards to the physical body. They understand that we are eternal souls, not meaning to upset or disrespect our connection with our child or children. So basically, I think that we talk a lot about, instead of grief, we talk about healing, because that's goal that we see. We use all of those wonderful tools that you're talking about. In fact,
Mhm.
the pendulum, as well as all of the writing you were talking about as well as, and I think that it might have been Dr. Gary Schwartz that you were talking about when you were connecting with your son, although Dr. Mark Pitstick did a facilitated afterlife communication, and I think that that might have been when you were connecting
Yeah,
with
no, I
someone.
went to a session with him and he took us on a guided journey.
Exactly. So I think it
Where-
must have been Mark Pitstick, although everybody's saying
Yeah, it
it's
was him.
Schwartz.
It
Um,
was.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I just wanted to say that no matter how we speak about it, we're trying to get to the same
Yeah.
end result, which is healing.
Yes, and I personally, I'm someone who cries out loud. So I like to pay attention to language, but I also like to, I was the one that was reclaiming slut when I was doing sex therapy work. Like, I believe in reclaiming words, and there is no death. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It just changes form. And yet the rest of the world talks about death, but we know the truth, right? And so what I find is one of the most important pieces of healing for me, and what I try to help others I work with, is, one of the keys to healing is having a community like this that understands and reflects the truth of what you know to be true, but also being able to be in the world and not let that permeate. You know what I mean? So when someone says death or so-and-so died, you know what that means to you. And sometimes if it's a reasonable person, you can have a conversation with them about it. Sometimes it's not worth it. And one of the things that I teach people as we work on the community pillar is that, there's this beautiful image I love. It looks like a bullseye with 3 concentric circles. And in the middle circle are your anchors. In the next circle are your buoys, and in the biggest circle are the boats. The anchors are the ones that are grounded. Your people who get you, who speak your language, who are they are unwavering in their support. You can count on them. That circle is small. The next circle are the buoys. They can be a little wobbly. They're basically anchored, but they're usually there for you, but not totally dependable. They're in a little bit of not the inner circle. And then they're the boats. They may come into harbor and leave. You can't really count on them. They may show up for your 50th birthday, or you see them once a year, but you can't really count on them. What happens when something like this goes down is that people were buoys are now boats. People you thought were boats now showed up as anchors. They're now anchors in your life. So our whole relationships change. And this is part of it, because the rest of the world doesn't necessarily understand. There will be people who do, but the key is in not to isolate because of that, to find your community, to find your tribe, which is why this piece of it is so important.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I'm really excited about the grounding exercise.
Okay, let's do that. It
That'll
won't
be
take long, because this is, by the way, I will do this. And especially when I was first learning this, in the beginning of what became Quantum Love, I would have, and I encourage you to do this, I would have Post-its or even alarms on my phone. I would have Post-its in my car, on my bathroom mirror, that just say ground, because it literally only takes 3 or 4 breaths and you will come back into your body. And the irony is that the more you're in your body, the more you can connect to them. You would think it's like the stronger your antenna is. You would think that if you're out here, you can connect to them more, but the more you can be in your body, the more you can allow yourself to feel. You will hit a bottom. It won't carry you away. That's what I learned on that week. And your frequency will rise as a result. So grounding, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, if you can, put your feet on the floor. If not, just feel your tush on the seat. And in just a moment, we're going to take some deep breaths in through. I'm going to tell you first what we'll do and then guide you. We're going to take some deep breaths in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth. But as you breathe in, imagine a beautiful light, any color that comes to you, flowing in through your crown, through the top of your head as you breathe in. We're going to hold the breath for a beat while it spreads through every cell of our body. And then as you breathe out through your mouth, The light shoots out your tailbone deep, deep, deep into the earth, like roots spreading out like roots of a tree. Okay. We're going to take 3 breaths like that. And then from there, there's beautiful things you can do to like expand your heart and create golden light around you, and ask your child to merge with the golden light and commune with them there. There's so many beautiful places you can go. But even as just like a daily practice, a regular practice to just stay grounded in yourself, it's really, really helpful. Okay, so we're going to take just 3 or 4 grounding breaths, but notice just before we start, just notice how your body feels, especially your belly, your shoulders, your hips. Okay, and now we're going to breathe in some beautiful light, any color that comes to you. Breathe it in deeply. It's beautiful, sparkling light. As you breathe in, it fills every cell, every corner of your body. Hold your breath for a beat. Let it spread throughout your body. And then as you breathe out, it shoots out your tailbone deep, deep, deep into the earth, grounding you there. Let's take another breath in. The light flows in through the top of the head. As you breathe slowly in, fill your lungs and belly with air as the light spreads throughout your entire system. Hold the breath while it fills every nook and cranny with beautiful healing light. It's attaching to anything you want to release. And as you breathe out, it carries with it the light, anything you want to let go of, deep, deep, deep into the earth, grounding you there. And all that you're letting go of is transmuting to love. The earth transmutes it to love. Let's take another breath in of light. Beautiful, sparkling, oily light flowing in through the top of the head. As you breathe in as deeply as you can, maybe even take an extra sip. Hold for a beat while it fills and maybe magnetizes to anything you want to put into the earth. And as you breathe out through your mouth, it shoots out your tailbone deep into the earth. One more breath like that. In comes the light. Hold it, let it spread, let it sparkle, let it connect. And out. And before you open your eyes, just notice, you may notice a little bit more heaviness in your hips, a little more presence in yourself. And just as a little added bonus, put your attention, I'm just getting the message to say this, put your attention on the center, your heart center, right in the middle of your chest. Inside in the middle, there's a teeny tiny pilot light. It's like the light, it's the light that you began from. It's the light of your soul. And as you take this next breath, I want you to imagine fueling that light with the energy of your breath. So as you take a deep, slow breath in through your nose, the light gets brighter and bigger. And as you breathe out, it intensifies in brightness and starts kind of flickering even more strongly, like a fire that's been blown on. Breathe in again. And let the light get even bigger and brighter. As you breathe out, it intensifies even more. The light of your soul building and fueling. And just let it rest there. Maybe put your hands on your chest, one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. From this grounded, open-hearted, heart-lit place, I just want to thank you so much for opening your hearts to me and allowing me into your lives this evening. And I want to encourage you to play with this and keep going, not now, but you can do this again later, and you can let the light get brighter and bigger until it expands outside your body and creates an entire bubble of light around you. And then you can invite your beloved in, your child or anyone you want to connect with, in to merge with that light around you. You can feel them and commune with them there. You can walk through the world in this light, affecting everyone else with your unique and gorgeous soul signature that the world so desperately needs. Each of you are a miracle. Each of you have so much love to give. So from this grounded, heart-centered, light-filled place with gratitude, I just want to say thank you, and so it is. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that. And it looks like we only have about 3 minutes left. So maybe you can leave us with some parting words of wisdom. I know that everyone's been very interested in what you've been saying. Some of the people are asking about the lessons that you've learned from the different passings of your mom and of Sammy. But I think you went over all of that, which is really good. So
Yeah.
would you just like to give us some final advice?
Yeah, I mean, I put in the chat the Grief Healing Collective. I'm actually about to start a membership program for that, but right now it's an Instagram and Facebook page. So if you go to either Dr. Laura Berman or the Grief Healing Collective,
Yeah,
that
that's fine. And I will put it onto the YouTube video as well so that people can find it on there.
yeah, I'll put that in the chat too, because it's kind of hard to find, but you can put it in there however you want, Elizabeth. But what I would say is that, not to despair if, the things I'm talking about aren't happening. And I hear from parents all the time, well, my child isn't coming to me in my dreams and I'm not connecting with them. Just know that whether or not you can feel them, they are right there. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. They are, as Elizabeth keeps saying, and you kept hearing during the conference, they are having the time of their lives. They are having it much easier in many ways than we are. That doesn't mean that we don't serve a purpose here. And I love to think about myself as his ambassador. And all of us have a reason for being here. We may not know it yet. We may have to allow it to unfold. We may have more healing to do before it does. But one of the biggest lessons I've learned is the power of faith. And faith is believing in that which you can't prove and you can't see and is often hard to believe in. That's one of the most beautiful and difficult parts of faith. But that's what's required. So if you stick with it and you stay open and you keep doing the healing work, you will connect to them more and more. You truly will.
That's beautiful. And they're all together this evening watching over us, and they're very excited that we're all having this meeting. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm glad that Tina was able to be on here as well. In fact, I met Tina a long time before I met you in person. And so it's really nice that she was able to share. And she did put the link on here. So I will put that as well on the YouTube video. And thank you so much for being with us. We always ask everyone to unmute and to say thank you and good evening. So if anybody would like to go ahead and start doing that, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, Dr. Laura.
Thank you, Dr.
so
Laura.
much.
Thank you.
God bless
Thank you,
Thank you.
Everyone,
Thank you so much, Dr. Laura.
have a wonderful evening. It's great to see everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Take care. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.